Hello, I'm Scott from the Centurion. Today I'm going to be joined by Lizzie from Rose and Jones and Jon from the Scented Snowdrops, and collectively we are known as From Every Angle. Now we are going to be discussing or going through what we're getting from a certain fragrance out of a discovery set from Angelos Creations Olfactives. Now I've already done one video and I'll leave a link in the description to that video. So this fragrance is Eau de Vertu. There are 9 in the discovery set. Also leave a link to Angelos's website where you can purchase these in the description as well. So let's get on to it. I've already sprayed it on my arm. I will spray it once again. But instantly what I get from this is I get a greenness, a huge fresh greenness and a rose. It's like if you imagine smelling a rose right at the beginning of the day, and you've taken the leaves and you crumpled the leaves up into your hand, you smell that freshness. You've got the stalk and you're stripping the stalk down and you're smelling that greenness from the stalk. This is what I'm getting, a photorealistic rose, but in its richness and rawness. And it is, there feels like there's a slight patchouli in here. Now the notes, I'll read you the notes right quickly. It is galbanum, rose petals, Russian clary sage, fresh ginger. Then in the midst is mimosa absolute, tuberose absolute, and migru, I've pronounced that wrong, heliotrope, jasmine. And then in the base we have oak moss absolute, mineral accords, and hanoiki wood, and musk. Now I thought I was getting some kind of patchouli in there and maybe like a vetiver type of smell, but it's not. It's the woods coming through, but they dampen down once you get about an hour in, and then from then on you then get the rose really comes out with the jasmine, and it just plays this beautiful symphony of gorgeousness. It is an absolute beautiful rose fragrance. I can't say enough about it. So far this is my favourite out of, we've only done 2, but this is my favourite so far, and this is going to be hard to beat. The quality of these are unbelievable. This one itself is 25% concentrations. There's a slight herbaceousness about it, maybe coming from the clary sage as well. There's also like I said in the notes, there's a little bit of ginger in there which gives it a tiny bit of fizz, and it's not for too long, but right at the beginning, and it's something else. It really is. But all in all, this is an olfactive journey that you're being taken on, and it's just a pleasure to actually smell this. It's gorgeous. The dry down, the opening, absolutely fantastic. So they are my quick feelings on this fragrance. I love it. It's beautiful. What I will do now is I will hand you over to Lizzie. She's next, and she will give you her expert opinion, and then after that it will be Jon. So over to you, Lizzie.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks everybody. Obviously we're on episode 2 and I'm bringing you Eau de Vertu. So I'm bringing you outside. It's a nice sunny day, but there's a lot of noise in the background, so I'm just sitting here chilling with my cup of coffee. But the sun's glaring a bit here. Let me actually go over, see if I can get a better angle with the fish. That's better. It's noisier, but I think it's prettier. I'm back with Eau de Vertu this time, and really interesting thoughts from Scott there. So picking up Eau de Vertu for the first time, I assumed it's going to be a green fragrance, but unlike Scott, who talks more about this being, you know, a photorealistic, true green stem, green leaf, I find it more to be this herbaceous, effervescent, lively fragrance. It's like a living fragrance. It feels alive to me. It's fizzy, it's bubbling, a bit like this pond. My first impression was that it was this herbaceous, almost organically smelling, elegant soap. And it really reminded me of another fragrance I really enjoy called Fawn by Thomas O'Brien, and that is a herbaceous, aromatic and kind of soapy fragrance with its white florals. This one is very similar in its character, but it does go off in a different direction based on all the notes that it has. and breaking it down, there's certain ones that do present themselves a lot more to my nose. In the opening we've got galbanum, rose petals, clary sage and ginger. Now I can't tell you exactly what galbanum smells like. I'm not overly familiar, but I know it's quite a green, it brings a lot of greenness into fragrance. Now the clary sage and the fresh ginger is very prominent to me. In fact, this really makes me think of ginger ale. There's something making it very fizzy, very effervescent, sparkling, lively, but in a ginger ale kind of way. So the fresh ginger that's in here to me is really prominent. There's all florals in the mid here. In the heart notes we've got the Mimosa Absolute, Tuberose Absolute, Muguet, or I don't know how to pronounce that, Muguet, which is actually lily of the valley, heliotrope and jasmine. Now it's the white florals that really come forward. Mostly I would say jasmine and this lily of the valley. That really makes me think of this elegant soap. Not heavy soap, it's not thick, it's not soapy, but there's this lovely undercurrent of this very elegant, very pure white soap, like a soap bar. From the base notes of the oak moss absolute, the mineral accord, the hinoki wood, which is like a Japanese cypress tree, and then the musk, I pick up more on what is quite a lovely soft musk, much further into the wear of the fragrance. That's what you end up with, this very soft musk. But the other notes bring this beautiful organic herbaceous quality. I love this lively fizz that it has. I don't know where that's coming from, but it is like pouring a very beautiful fizzy ginger ale over this elegant pure white soap bar and watching it fizz. So Scott gave some emphasis on the rose in this fragrance. I can't say that I pick up on rose particularly. If I was to, you know, get my nose in and really sniff where I've sprayed it, there's a soft quality, perhaps a soft floral quality running in with the ginger, because the ginger, although it's fizzy and effervescent and fresh, it's not sharp. It's not that very sharp nose tingling spice of ginger. It is quite palatable. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's the rose doing that, but overall I don't think rose is really what I'm picking up on at all. I think that ginger and these very delicate white florals are the most emphasised scent in this fragrance, for me anyway. So it's not particularly a heavy fragrance. Like I say, it's very effervescent and you know, lively and fresh. It lasts about 5 hours on me and projected moderately, I would say, for about 4 of those hours. It's a zen fragrance. It kind of wakes your senses with that zingy ginger, but no, without actually being too heavy. I enjoyed how it's fizzy and different notes, different scents sort of present themselves in each little burst of bubble. I think because of the ginger, it's one I would have to be in the mood for, so it's not something I necessarily vibe with, but I think it is a beautifully done fragrance. I mean, you can smell the quality in this one. It is very beautiful. So that is my thoughts on Eau de Vertu. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to Scott, and I'm going to now hand you over to John. Let's see what he thinks of this one. Thanks, guys.
So yes, Lizzie and Scott had beautiful backdrops, so I thought I'd join them. Except there's a bee trying to eat me there, and there's plastic shit everywhere. So we'll try not to focus on that. But so Angelos Virtus, the second of the fragrances. Hang on. Briefly, very quickly go through how I kind of found it, and then the differences. So for me, it does open very green and vegetal. Obviously the galbanum and the ginger are kind of the strongest notes, but it's a very gingery root to me, like it's just been taken out of the ground. It's very realistic, and it does add a bit of the kind of fiery spice. As it settles, the mimosa is the most dominant kind of, if there is mimosa in it, is the most dominant kind of floral I get. Kind of slightly bitter, not overly bitter, but a dry floral touch, and it's also sweet. I'm not saying it's bitter, but it's got, you know, to me that's what mimosa smells like. It is very green, and in the first wearing, I'm not going to lie, that's all I could focus on. It was quite vegetal and green, and I really didn't like it. Now the more I've got to wear it, the more I did notice these sweeter nuances. And it's hard to pick out specific notes for me, but to me this is walking across crunchy autumn leaves, with autumnal blossoms like a mimosa in the air, and the woods and the oak moss are kind of under it all. In the dry down, it does get a touch soapy, and that's where I kind of agree with Lizzie. And there's a touch of musk in the greenness. Now, just to kind of get to what the other two said, with Scott, Scott seemed to exceptionally love it, and he managed to pick out the rose, which I kind of wish I did. And Lizzie bet kind of that a lot of greenness as well, didn't she? I don't really agree with either of them. To me, it is green, and it is a bit bitter, and it's kind of my focus, I think, is the mimosa. But it's the different things we all pick out, obviously, isn't it? And the different things we focus on. They both seem to really enjoy it. Now, again, in the first time I wore it, I could not enjoy it at all. I really didn't like it. But the more I've wore it, the more I've warmed to it. I appreciate it, and now with that slight floral sweetness, it's a much more pleasant fragrance. I loved Grass d'Orient, and it's a bit difficult when you go from one you really love to one you're not a big fan of. But all in all, I do think it's a great fragrance, and if you do like these, how do you describe it? It's a very foresty scent. Then you're gonna love this. But yeah, it's been interesting to do it again, especially as we're all different. Like Lizzie Bet seems to get a lot of white florals, which I don't get any, none at all. I certainly don't get tuberose or jasmine, and I don't get the fizziness. And obviously Scott kind of got the rose in there, and I've got a note that's probably not listed and not in it, the mimosa, which is, it's kind of weird, isn't it? The ginger, I think, is probably the thing where we all kind of agree, but to me it was more fiery and what have you, and dry and spicy. So yeah, it's interesting. So that's all, nice and brief. I will go and edit it all together and pick the next one now. But it's interesting to do it, even when I even enjoy it actually, when it's not one I warm to and not one I love. So yes, let's see what we'll be doing next, folks. Of course, thank you guys for being great again. It's good to see a bit of class and some great noses. Like, I think Scott's got a wonderful nose, as does Lizzie. And again, like I say, the fact we all get different things just goes to show how subjective fragrances are. Anyway, thanks. In fact, some could say we see it from all angles. So, as Claire Smurfy Girlie would do, I will get the cat to decide what's next. Let's see if it works. No kisses, no kisses. Go pick one of them. This one. That worked extremely well, didn't it? This one is Yesami. So the next one... Yeah, the next one from Angelos Olfactives we were doing is Yesami. Thanks AJ, thanks folks.